From a toilet-hating demon to a mysterious village that you really don't want to ever find, here are the top 5 scary urban legends from Japan. Number 5 on this list is Okiku. I was talking the other day on this channel about some super creepy dolls and how Annabelle would be high up on the list. Well, a list on creepy dolls would also need to have Okiku. Gajinpo says, the story goes that in 1918 in Hokkaido, Ikichi Suzuki purchased for his young sister, Kikoko, a traditional Japanese Okopa doll. Sadly, Kikoku died from a cold and the family kept the doll in a shrine to their daughter and named it Okiku. However, the family noticed something odd about the doll. Over time, its hair was getting longer. The family believed the doll possessed with the restless spirit of their deceased daughter and so looked after it until entrusting it in the care of Mananji Temple. There the doll remains slowly growing human hair. You can visit Okiku, but photography isn't allowed. Today, even after a few trims from the temple's priests, the doll's hair has grown past its knees. It's also supposedly upped its terror. The priests claim to have nightmares of Okiku and visitors say the doll's mouth is slowly opening and sprouting baby teeth. I think the creepiest thing about this for me is the baby teeth that this thing is reportedly growing. Like, how on earth is that even possible? Actually, I'll answer that for you. It isn't. This completely defies all logic and goes against everything that we understand about life and growth. It sounds to me like this thing is slowly but surely coming alive and becoming a hybrid between a human being and a doll. I also really don't like the idea that the priests who are around this thing have nightmares about it. For all we know, these nightmares aren't even dreams at all, but they're real. Maybe this thing gets up in the night, moves around, and they just think that they're having a nightmare, but really it's real life. As far as I'm concerned, this doll needs to be destroyed as soon as possible. Everything about it screams unnatural and creepy, and I doubt that anyone would be surprised if, in a few years, this thing decided to become alive and start pulling a Chucky and just going on a total killing spree. Number 4 on this list is Manto. If you think the trip to the bathroom after Taco Bell is bad, then clearly you've never had to deal with Manto. Gajinpo says, Manto meets victims when they're most vulnerable. On the toilet. He wears a white mask and a long red cape. There are many variations to the legend. He holds red and blue toilet paper in some stories, but he's only in his cape in others. However, he always asks the victim to choose a color, red or blue. It doesn't matter what you answer because Manto kills you regardless. Choosing red rewards you with a stabbing, spilling your blood all over the stall. If you answer blue, Manto either suffocates you or sucks out your blood, leaving you blue-faced and dead on the floor. So your best bet is to either ignore the fiend or run away. Manto's origins are a mystery but are likely inspired by the Japanese school toilets where the grisly murders occur. In Japan, every English teacher can attest to being in an eerily large yet empty school with a bathroom furthest away from the others, old and unkept. Moreover, who wants to answer questions while trying to take a number 2? This is honestly the worst demon I think I've ever heard of, guys. Like, literally, screw you, Manto. It's been a long, tiring day so far. I'm exhausted. I just need to take a tiny break to go and take a poo, and yet here you are trying to kill me. Taking a dump is supposed to be relaxing, freeing experience. For a few minutes, I get to be transported away from where I am and just chill. Ruining that tiny time period that we get in the day to ourselves is pretty freaking lousy. Most of the time, I recommend running away from demons or outsmarting them. But I don't know, guys. I think with this dude, I'd be so pissed off that my poo's getting interrupted, I might just have to throw hands. If I died defending toilet time, then you know what? At least I know I died valiantly. Number 3 on this list is Maruoka Castle. Maruoka Castle is a beautiful Japanese castle. Problem is that the weather is not nearly as nice. In fact, it's almost always raining at this castle. Rarely a few hours ever go by without rain coming down a little bit at this place. Well, believe it or not, this isn't just some fluke of nature. There's an urban legend here. To understand what this urban legend is, you must first understand what Hitobashira is. Hitobashira was a kind of human sacrifice in Japan where lords would brick people up in their homes or their castles, and the person would slowly die locked away in this tiny bricked up chamber. The thinking was that this would appease the gods and that this would protect the building that this person was sacrificed in. Well, this castle was host to one of the most famous Hitobashira stories ever. There was one wall in this castle that just could not seem to stay up. It kept being reinforced, but it never mattered. It would always find a way to crumble. Well, only logical thing to do at this point is to brick a human being up in it and hope that that works. A one-eyed peasant woman named Oshizu was chosen for this sacrifice. She was okay with doing it, but requested that the lords make her 2 sons into samurai after her death. They happily agreed to this and proceeded to brick her up and sacrifice her to the gods. They never kept the promise though, and the 2 boys didn't become samurai. Now it rains constantly because Oshizu is always crying for her sons. At springtime, the river overflows and it's really detrimental for the locals. So much so that they even built a tomb in her honor, but it didn't matter though, her tears continue to rain down. Number 2 on this list is the Howling Tunnel. So this is a weird one for sure. The tunnel is only one part of the legend because on the other side of the tunnel is a mysterious village that hardly anyone has ever been able to see. Gajinpo says, supposedly located deep in the Inunaki countryside of Kyushu's Fukaku prefecture, this abandoned village is said to only be accessible through Inunaki Tunnel. The stories say that all who enter the village are doomed to a violent death. These myths and tales also seem to mention that there's some sort of official sign stating the Japanese constitution is not in effect past here, meaning that all who enter are on their own to face the real or supernatural horrors that await. The tales, however, were likely inspired by a brutal murder that actually took place in Inunaki Tunnel. The tunnel, being remote and rarely used by traffic, was a popular spot for gangs. One afternoon in December 1988, a group of teens kidnapped, robbed, and tortured a 20-year-old boy before burning the young man alive deep within the tunnel. Today, Inunaki Tunnel, or Howling Dog Tunnel in Japanese, is considered one of the most haunted places in Japan. Large concrete bricks block its entrance. No one knows if the village beyond this tunnel is real or not, and it's kind of impossible to ever find out because if you ever actually got there, then you just die immediately. Even if this place is real though, clearly this tunnel has seen its fair share of death over the years with the story of the boy. The government has literally just written it off completely and doesn't even seem to care what goes on here. This is definitely a spot to avoid in Japan. The consequences could be dire if you go here. Number 1 on this list is Kuchisake Onna. This is by far one of the most famous Japanese urban legends and certainly one of the scariest. Scoop Whoop says, considered to be the wife of a samurai warrior who slit open her mouth when he found out about her infidelity, Kuchisake Onna has an interesting urban legend surrounding her. She walks on the streets after sunset on foggy days with her face covered with a surgical mask approaching travelers. She then asks the travelers if they thought that she was pretty, and most would answer with a yes. Well, she'll then remove her mask, exposing her slit mouth. She'd then ask the traveler again if they thought that she was pretty. If they answered with a yes again, she produces a pair of scissors and slits their mouth open. If they say no, then she'll produce a scythe and then cut them in half. Apparently, the trick is to answer saying that she looked average, which would confuse her and she'd have to leave. I've never heard a story where telling somebody that they looked average ended well, but I guess that's what we have here, guys. The sightings have been very frequent around Japan, and it's kind of conventional knowledge now that if somebody ever approaches you asking this question, proceed with serious caution. Maybe just proceed with caution if anyone approaches you and says that though. Kind of a strange opener if you think about it. But anyways guys, there you have it. That is our list of the top 5 scary urban legends from Japan. Please let me know what you thought about this list in the comments down below and some other crazy urban legends that you may know about. Also, please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. I've been your host, Nicholas Playlog, and I'll catch you next time.